welcome to Furious Driving, and this is my 1996 Rover 200 VI, the hot hatch Rover R3 with the K-Series 1.8 VVC engine, which in this case has got the cappuccino milkshake of doom head gasket failure. Last time we finished this episode trying to get the head off it when I ran into a roadblock in that I couldn't get the crank pulley bolt undone. Fortunately, as you can see in the B-roll rolling across right now, my friend Greg came over with a monstrously powerful impact driver and we whipped this thing out. Toot sweet post haste, no bother whatsoever. It's now out, which means the crank pulley is off. We'll find a home for that to keep it safe for the next 19 months, so we'll put the rest of this engine back together again. Now I can continue taking the timing belt off, the timing gear off, and hopefully by the end of this episode we'll have this head removed from the K-Series engine. I should point out I haven't got a clue what I'm doing, so I'm referring entirely to the Haynes manual. I have got the Rave MG Rover CD as well, so thank you very much indeed for that one. However, it only works on PCs that are older than a certain operating system, I think newer than another one as well, and the machine I'd managed to find to work that on no longer works, so I'm going to need to go and restore a Windows PC from the days of yore in order to make that work again. So meantime, I'm going to crack on with this one. Now, I'm going to do some reading and then do some undoing. Oh yeah, before I get too far into this, I know many people will be saying, why aren't you doing this in your nice shiny new warm dry barn instead of doing it in the wind? It's actually quite a nice sunny day, which is why I'm doing it today. And the reason is because there's going to be a lot of flushing oil, dropping water and stuff and cleaning out the systems. I didn't want to be a new tenant making a massive mess over there in case I spill loads of oily, messy coolant out of this thing and lots of oil on the floor for like the first week I'm there. So I'll do this one here and then drive it over there, and it can live in the warm and the dry once this job is done. Right, let's get reading. Now with these wheels set, with the two timing marks set and locked just here, what we have is the cylinders decked, so they're all equal height in the cylinders, which, having spoken to both the Jameses, Nitro Sylvia and the Rubbish Mechanic, both of whom are Rover experts, just in conversation they have said, yeah, that's normal and fine, because it means no valves are going to be impacting on any cylinders. So the stick is my very accurate way of checking how deep all of these pistons are in their cylinders. Shows they are all evenly spaced. So picking up where I left off, I need to get the lower timing belt cover off, and that involves removing the power steering tensioner, which is that thing there, which is going to be very hard to film, but basically it's 3 bolts as far as I can tell. So I'll try and get that off. I don't think I'll get any video of it though, because it's really awkward to see. Okay, so I'm about 4 hours into undoing this bolt now. The tensioner above, or in front of the spanner, I could not get that to budge one little bit, and it's not important right now anyway. So I thought I'd just get an 8mm spanner in there, wind out that little screw and take off this plastic cover, which is like the least significant thing of this entire section of the project. But it is such a tiny bit of movement I've got there that each move moves it like a 97th of a thread movement wind. Oh god, and it winds back in more easily than it runs out. So join me again tomorrow when I'm still undoing this same bolt. Right, so I've got that lower cover out of the way, so I've got some clearance on that so I can get this timing belt out. Next, really easy thing, which is proving to be insanely hard, is to undo or slacken off the tensioner. So there's an 8mm bolt down there, which I've taken halfway out. There's another one on the back of the tensioner, which I'm not sure I do need to undo or not, but that does not want to turn even a little bit. And currently the tensioner is reluctant to move. There we go. That's better, that's moving now at last. It does say next I need to take the engine mount off, but I'm not sure that the engine mount actually goes into the block. I think that's only if you're at the stage of changing the timing belt. As it stands, I'm just chucking it off the side so it's not connected to anything. Right, that is now slack. So let's try and give that to us. God, that is reluctant to move. Come on, move. Okay, I seem to have just bent something. Okay, that's good. Right, that's coming undone at last. So why aren't you just slackening off when I could just cut through the timing belt? Oh, I see. Yeah, I thought it was like one where you twist it and it's spring loaded, but it's not. The more you turn it, the slacker it goes. Right, that's as slack as it's going to get, so let's get this thing off there. Not slacking off apparently. Right, well that doesn't want to come off, and we're not using this, so I'm going to do this the old-fashioned way. And say goodbye to the timing belt just there. So now we mustn't move anything at all. Goodbye timing belt. Why wouldn't you unslacken? I guess the tensioner was a bit knackered because it's not untensioning anywhere near enough, even though it's... I don't know. Anyway, right, let's get that out of the way. Right, I do seem to be jumping back and forth through the book a little bit, but the cam belt is off. Next thing it mentions is undoing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different plugs. I'll see how many of those I can find and locate and disconnect. Try and do this without breaking anything. Always a favourite. Or pinging the wires off and launching them over the fence. Also a common favourite of mine. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hang on, how many are these? So it says what they are, but you know, I don't actually know what any of these are. Inlet air temperature sensor, throttle position sensor wiring, idle air control valve wiring, distributor coil HT lead, somewhere down there, fuel injection harness wiring and oxygen sensor wiring plug. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 5 plus the HT lead, which will be down there. I need to get that cover off, I guess. Release the oxygen sensor wiring plug and coil HT lead from the locating clips. Release the hose clip disc. Blimey. Didn't mention taking this cover off, but I suspect I need to take this cover off. My 8mm socket is taking a punishment today. Right, the book tells me lots of other things I need to be undoing, but I'm not actually sure I need to do them to take the head off. It seems a lot of extra work for no reason, but what I do need though at this point is an E12 female Torx socket to undo the 12 hub bolts, because I'm at that point already. I assume I don't need to undo a bunch of other pipes and things, which I'm sure will become apparent very shortly. So I need to run down and find an E12 Torx socket from somewhere now. Covering this up now so no dirt falls into it while I'm away. This is the worst thing about working on your drive at home rather than in a garage or a workshop, is that every time you stop and go indoors for any reason, you've got to put everything away. When I got back, the microphone had turned itself off, but I didn't notice, so bear with me while I narrate this. Marvel at my lip syncing abilities, but I'm sorry, you're not going to get the full extent of the suffering I went through over the next couple of hours. Now luckily Halfords did have an E12 Torx socket in stock, so I could carry on today. There are 10 head bolts and they have to be undone in the reverse order of the tightening sequence here in the manual, and that is essential. So working backwards, giving each one a slight turn to ease the tension across the head, I undid them one fraction of a turn at a time, working in order very gradually until they could work themselves loose so we don't warp the head by releasing the tension too much in the wrong order. Like on the Rover V8, I'm keeping the bolts in order with a piece of cardboard, as these have to go back where they came out from, and I'm told the original Rover bolts were better quality than any of the replacements, so we'll be keeping these for later and making sure they're in good condition. But they are utterly disgusting. Well, it's loose, but it's stuck on the left hand side and I cannot figure out how or why or what on. The book mentioned loads of stuff not connected to the head you have to undo, but not these coolant pipes. And at the back, under the end of the manifold, there are more pipes and more wires to disconnect. There you go, that is now removed. So, I'm going to undo this from this end. I still can't see why it won't move. Oh, it's free, but it won't come off. It's still attached to pipes and none of them are mentioned in the handbook. And that's how you lose a cup of tea. This, wherever this goes, okay, that's that, but that's running through that. The throttle cable, how do I disconnect the throttle from this? I have to unbolt that from however that's bolted on. That's basically the only things that are holding me on now. I'll start with this one because that's most annoying. so it's finally free. I've slipped some cardboard between the head and the block so that no damage can occur from scraping metal on metal. I've unbolted the throttle body from the inlet manifold and also found a fuel line underneath there as well. Now, considering this is all aluminium, it is surprisingly heavy. I'm annoyed that the camera missed about 10 minutes of struggling with the engine, or the head half lifted up, trying to work out what was there and what wasn't, because it was quite an effort unplugging so many things, unbolting stuff, finding lots of other hidden things that just weren't mentioned in the Haynes manual that I needed to have undone, and didn't really find out until after it was too late. At least it's easy to get to the water pump and change that now. But one shocking thing actually is that these cylinders are meant to be decked, but they're all, well, maybe this is what they mean by decked, because there's two very up and two very down, but I was expecting all four to be level, considering I've got the timing position as described in the book. Never mind, I can't see any impact damage on any of the pistons, so I'm going to assume that's a win. This is the old head gasket, and you can see what an utter mess, what an absolute state it's in. So yeah, normally, or sometimes when you see a head gasket failure, you can see a point between two pistons where, or two cylinders, sorry, where it's letting go, but it just seems to be everywhere in this thing. There's no one clear point that looks like, I don't know, it was giving way. It just seems to be just a mess, frankly. Now, the other thing which we need to be 100% sure of is that the cylinder liners are all good, and they do appear to be all right at the very top of their cylinders. That one is level, that one's level, that one is down like a billionth of a millimetre, this one is up a billionth of a millimetre. But other than that, I think, in fact, not even really up, it's just not as, it must be dirt actually. It's an infinitesimally small amount. So I think these cylinder liners are fine, which was a worry some people mentioned in the comments. One thing we do have to be absolutely sure of is that we do not rotate the engine until the head goes back on, because if we do rotate the engine, there's a pretty good chance that we will disturb the cylinder liners, and then we've got serious problems. So the car is in neutral, there's no battery, so it can't be cranked on the starter. So hopefully nothing is going to go disastrously wrong here. So again, more milkshake absolutely everywhere. Now I did have to twist the camshafts to get it out, because the head bolt was stuck. So this one is now down a touch. Again, I can't see one obvious culprit of where grime was coming through. This will have to go off to the machine shop where they can assess it. First, go and get a straight edge and have a look. Well, let's give this a bit of a clean up and just have a look how good or bad it is. I'm going to say pretty bad, but if we can get an idea of how flat or otherwise it is. Okay, right, so straight edge. I can't see any. Let's put the light behind it and I'll be able to see. It looks pretty flat. Yeah, I think I might have gotten away with it. Well, I think I might be a bit lucky here. I think this isn't warped. So I'll take this to a machine shop, see what the absolute minimum they can do to it is, and then go from there. Better take this inlet manifold off first though. Okay, so if I just separate off the inlet manifold from the head itself, which is quite easy now, it's upside down. These last two are a 13mm rather than a 10 like everything else, so. Whoop. And it's off. Oh no, it's not. Yes, it is. So that, I can give a bit of a clean up while I'm waiting for everything to go back together again. But I probably didn't need to disconnect quite so many things from that, because that is, well, a discrete unit. If I could have got on there separately, never mind. Right, so the last thing I'm going to do today is have a quick look at these head bolts, which are manky as anything. Oh, I've run out of... I should have got some more brake and clutch cleaner when I was down at Halfords. Is just check how straight these things are. Because if they're wonky, then I will need new ones. That looks good. That looks... I've got a slight bow to it. Yeah, that's alright. Looks good. Yeah, I think we're okay. But generally, they are okay. But generally they are very disgusting. Everything in this engine is very disgusting. Right, so now all I need to do is take that head over to a machine shop to go and get them to check it out for me, make sure it's smooth, and if they need to take a millionth of a millimetre off it, then strip it down and do so. Otherwise we'll put it back as is. I mean, I'm quite happy for them not to strip it down and machine it at all if it's level enough and safe enough to put it back on with no risk of it blowing again in no time at all. In the meantime though, I will start cleaning up everything else that's all gooey and manky and disgusting, and maybe I'll do a video on cleaning goo out of a K series. Will that be fun? I don't know. Anyway, thank you for watching. This has been a long and harder day than I thought it was going to be. I was expecting quite an easy ride, and I'm annoyed that I've lost a bit of microphone and I've lost a bit of video along the way as well, so this might be a much shorter video than I'm anticipating putting out tonight. But anyway, the good news is the head is now off. We're well in the way of getting this project down the road and, well, back on the road again. Well, thank you for watching. If you like this, please, as always, hit like and subscribe, and join me again next time. Well, I don't know what we're doing. Probably doing something else, because that'll be over at the machine shop.